WAEC is our own grade 12 exam, West African Examination Council. So it's not just Nigeria, other countries, just one exam. Of course, subject varies, based on the region. So these are the kind of questions that we deal with in further maths, basically. But of course, this is taught in further maths, SS1. SS1 is like your Form 4, I think. Yeah, so this is like taught in Form 4, but not in ordinary maths, in additional maths as a subject. Let's see. I think some things are trivial. This is easy for everyone. Yes? So, we put what we know, we form two equations. I think you have done a few of those. This is the part that I'm interested in, the second part. So let's quickly do the first one. The remainder when f of x is divided by that. So we apply Remender's theorem, right? Okay? By Remender's theorem, right? By Remender's theorem. Of course, you don't have to write this. I just want to write it so if you're going through your books later, you know how we did it. By Remender's theorem, we know that f of 1 is negative 12 and f of 2 is negative 21. Yes? Yes? Yes. So, from f of 1, I'm going to use a column because I could just put is equal to 12 on the other side. A 1 cubed, 3 1 squared, B 1, 15 equals negative 12. So this implies A plus 3 plus B plus 15 equals negative 12. And that implies A plus B, negative 12 minus 3 minus 15. What's that? Minus what? What? You see that minus 30? It should be minus 30, right? Similarly, f of negative 2, is it? Or just 2? Positive 2. Okay. F of 2, from f of 2, this will be a2 cubed. So when you have negative, you have to be very, very careful. It should be in the bracket. And you have to consider the odd powers is negative. Very important, please. 3, 2 squared, b2, 15 equals what this time? Negative 21. So that implies A8, or maybe we just write 8A. I believe everybody understands, right? Yes. 8A, 12, yes? Plus 2B, plus 15, negative 21. So collect the like terms. This implies 8A plus 2B, negative 21, negative 12, negative 15. What's that? Negative what? 48. 48. You can simplify by dividing by 2. It's always better to simplify. And 4a now. 4a plus b, negative 24. So this will be equation 2, while this is equation 1. Okay? So we solve equation 1 and 2. Let's solve them here. So from a plus b minus 30, 4a plus b minus 24, direct subtraction is okay. Don't overdo your solution by using substitution method, blah, blah, blah. Okay? The best set of solutions are the most logical in the shortest possible step. So you might write 10 steps, and someone gives an argument of 3 steps with a superior argument. In a standard competition, that should win because you think more maturely. It's just like someone who speaks for 10 hours, pointless or less points, than someone who just spoke for 5 minutes and everybody gave a standing ovation. Do you get my point? So don't overdo it in your solutions. So subtract negative 3a, and this will be plus now, minus minus, right? And that will be negative 6. So a becomes positive 2. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So if you put that into equation 1, of course, which says a plus b equals negative 30, then b is negative 30, negative a, negative 30, negative 2. This implies b is equal to negative 32. So, finding the constants, we already have a2, b negative 32. But that's not the end of the problem, isn't it? The second part of the problem says find the zeros of f of x. We've already done the difference between zeros and roots. We are talking about zeros because, can somebody tell me that? What is zeros, the word you use here? Because it's an expression. Okay, these are values that make f of x to be 0. So basically, to get the zeros, you equate f of x is equal to 0. You turn it to an equation and you solve. But it's not an equation originally. You just had to equate it to 0 to find the zeros. That's the difference. We mentioned that during the Zoom classes, right? So quickly, to find the 0, what do we normally do during the holiday to find zeros? What is the first thing you need to achieve? In factorized form. If they are not in factorized form, how do you know the zeros? So because this is, how many factors would this have? 3. It's a cubic function, isn't it? So you need to find the 3 linear factors. If indeed there are factors, linear factors, because it's possible that one of them is linear, maybe the other are actually complex, but it's still going to be linear anyway, regardless. So that is the major task for you. 2, which means the next thing after you found a and b, write your polynomial properly and factorize completely. Even though the question never says factorize completely. But that's the next thing. Otherwise, you don't know the linear factors, let alone finding the zeros. So, my polynomial has now become, Werner, you here? My polynomial has now becomes f of x, making sure that everybody can see. Can you guys see from there? Yeah. All right. Okay. So my polynomial has now become, let's write this properly with the values of a and b. Together, now. 2x cubed
Plus 3x squared.
Minus
32x. Plus 15.
20?
15.
15. Okay? So the first thing is we need to find a factor. We are not so lucky here because none of this is a factor. But in some question you'll be so lucky that a factor is given to find a and b. If that is the case, you divide to get the other factor. But here we need to investigate what the factor is. So on your calculator or whatever, try to find out the value that makes this 0. Just one number is enough. Plus or minus whole number of fraction. I will go with the integers first. Like 1 plus 1 minus 1 plus 2 minus 2. Try to figure out which one gives you 0. You can try, because of this, it's likely that one of the factors has 2x, isn't it? So you don't know, maybe it's 2x minus 1, 2x plus 1, minus 3 plus 3. So you might want to try 1 over 2 if it gets too complicated. 1 over 2 works. 1 over 3 works.
3 is
3 works. 1 over 2 also works.
Yeah.
So it depends on which one you get first. So let's pretend that we are all lazy and we only work with integers. So I'm going to go with the 3. Because you actually need to do extra work to figure out that 1 over 2. How did you do it? Alright, so by trial and error, okay, since f of 3 is equal to 0, okay, you can just take your time to write it. F of 3 is 2, 3 cubed, plus 3 squared, minus 32 times 3 plus 15, and this is equal to 0. It implies that what is a factor? X minus 3 is a factor. Now, there are 2 ways from this step. We're going to divide x minus 3 by the original polynomial. We will get a quadratic expression which can be easily factorized. Then that's 2x minus 1 Did you say 1 over 2?
Yeah.
Then that will have been 2x minus 1. Will be one of those factors. Another way is, you go with what she said by writing, since f of 1 over 2 is a factor, it means x minus 1 over 2, since f of half is equal to 0, it means 2x minus 1 is a factor. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm.
Then you combine the two factors that you have, because if 2 and 3 are factors of a number, the product is also a factor. Do you agree? If 2 and 3 are simultaneously a factor of a number, the product 2 and 3, which is 6, is also a factor. So if I wish to factorize 30, for example, 30, she figure out 2, you figure out 3. I have 2 ways to do this. I'm going to ask you to complete this on your own. I have 2 ways to do this. I could easily either go with 2, 30, get 15. This is the way of the first one. Then I say, oh, my 30 is now 2 times 15. This is the quadratic function we are talking about. It means, oh, it will now be 2, 3 times 5. This is me factorizing the quadratic. Since my polynomial is now in 3 factors, then you can say, if you put the polynomial is equal to 0, you get all the zeros out. That's one way. The other way is to say, since 2 is a factor, just like we said here, since something, then this is a factor. Also, 3 is a factor because the other person has given us another factor. Then 2 times 3, which is equal to 6, so you expand, and that gives you quadratic. It's also a factor. So when you are dividing, you divide by the quadratic. So by the time you divide the cubic function by the quadratic, you get the last linear standing here.
Oh.
So if there are 2 linear factors already given, you can actually multiply them, and what you get is still also a factor. And that is actually the reverse of some questions. In some question, rather than giving you x minus 1 is a factor, x plus 3 is a factor, the question will simply say x squared plus 2x minus 3 is a factor. Basically,